there. Welcome to Empower Hour. We're getting some traction, as they say in the business. We're getting some people commenting and joining us, and we've got a lot of people in the replay because of time zones and whatnot. So wherever you are, wherever you're seeing this, welcome to Empower Hour. This is my name's Molly, and that's Christine. Will obviously speak for herself at some point, surely. But we started this to put together an hour where we can talk about stuff. We can grow together. We can form community. We can be silly. We can learn some stuff. And so wherever you are, we're so glad you're with us. And just some housekeeping. Always feel free to write something in the chat or a comment if you're seeing this again on the replay, because we do read those comments. We do see them, and we always put them into programming if it's something that's going to be helpful or of interest to more than just me and Christine. So we do start with this really great one of our not rituals, but one of the things that we do is we start with a centering or a grounding exercise, because again, we don't know where you are in the world or what type of day you've had or what type of day you're having. And so I think Christine's got a really great one, and I'm going to probably stop. Well, just real quick, like a bunny. We're going to talk today about boundaries as self-care. I love boundaries, and we'll get into why I love boundaries. And we've got some really great things that you guys can work along with at home, the play-at-home game. But I'm really hoping that you can stick with us, because it's going to be a really awesome episode of Empower Hour. And now I'm going to go on mute and listen to Christine with the grounding exercise, so we can all.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Molly. Yes, I am going to lead us in a very quick. Oh, I love your mug, Molly. Very quick. This is my drink of choice today. Portillo's Coca-Cola. She's from Chicago, folks, through and through. So much for, anyways, a tangent. So centering exercise. So like Molly said, no matter what kind of day you have had, we like to come together very quickly for a few moments. And lately we have been doing, also Molly, I believe this is our 11th episode. So for the past, like the 10 before this, they've mostly been breathing exercises or some variation forms, and they're amazing and they're great, and there's actual biological and neurological science behind why they work. However, we realize that breathing can sometimes get boring. So we're going to change it up just a little bit. I am still going to ask you to breathe because it's important. So keep breathing. But what I would love for you to do, if it is safe for you to do so, close your eyes for just a moment. Or if it's more comfortable, just soften your gaze and take one deep breath in. This is the one breath I'm going to have you take in. And then slowly exhale. Now I want you to imagine if you had unshakable boundaries that were lovingly held, that were crystal clear, what would change in your day-to-day life? Just take a couple minutes and think about that. I'm going to ask some additional questions to help you clarify that. What would you say no to without guilt? That's the key word there. Is what we just be like, nope, thank you, that's not for me, and not feel any type of way about it. What would you finally make space for that's just for you? And don't overthink this. Like, what's the first thing that pops in your head? That's the answer. And then how would you feel in your body? How would you feel in your body to know your time, your energy, and your peace is protected? Okay, so I lied. So I'm going to ask you to take one more deep breath. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And exhale. And when you're ready, we're going to get started. So if you want to share, whether you're live with us or watching the replay, feel free to pop it into the chat if you feel comfortable to do so. Again, what's one word that came up for you just now? Some examples could be freedom, relief, power. maybe even fear. Maybe boundaries is something that's scary for you. We're going to talk about that today. So, but whatever came up, doesn't matter what it was. It's all valid. And like I said, we're going to talk about that today. So, thank you first and foremost for being here. Thank you for taking this time for yourself. Because when we take moments like this for ourselves, we are taking them, yes, for ourselves, but also for our entire community. It has ripple effects. So, thank you for being here. And
So
now,
one, oh,
boundaries is self care. I'm gonna
well,
say
yeah,
it
and
20 times, but it's my favorite phrase. Boundaries are self care.
well, I, you kind of tiptoed around the edge of it, like at the very last part of the introduction and the exercise. Um, but for me, um, boundaries are very difficult for people pleasers. And when you had talked about, bringing your power and being, empower hour, and setting aside that time for yourself, and not only are you investing in yourself, but by investing in yourself, everyone else in your circle and your communities and your network, your family, your friends, your work, uh, everybody benefits. And
Yes.
and one of the things that I have found with our clients, especially the people pleasers,
Uh huh.
speaking as a fellow people pleaser, oh my God, when I was a kid, the worst thing you could have said to me as a kid was, Molly, I'm so disappointed in you. It was like worse than a beat. Almost, and not that I was beaten, but I mean, it
Yeah.
was just like, it was just a gut punch. And I felt like,
Oh
oh
yeah.
my God, I am a terrible loser. I've broken my grandmother's heart. I'm terrible. I'm awful. I don't, all this terrible. So it's like people pleasers sometimes feel as if they don't say yes to the PTA, to whatever, then I am letting other people down, and I can help other people more if I overextend myself and say yes to everybody in the world and everything in the world.
Yeah.
When in fact, the reverse is true. It's that setting the boundaries and saying, I love going to the plays. I'm more than happy for my kids' play to be, bring some snacks for them during a rehearsal or whatever. I was actually in charge of the craft table for one of my kids' plays, and it was fun. It was fun for me. I made little teeny little things for them to eat, and
Yeah.
little cut up fruit and whatever. And I partially did that because I could. One thing, I was working. I was not self-employed at the time. We're kind of going off the deep end, but I
No, we're getting
um
right into it.
well, it just, yeah, I was like, because here's the thing.
You had the time, the mental space, and you
Well, not
enjoyed
only
it.
that, I had the money. I
Yeah.
was, I was, I had, and I had the experience because one of the reasons I wanted to be in charge of the craft table for behind the scenes, especially in the morning when they had to be at the school at the butt crack of dawn, is because I remember being a single parent and having to give my kid a piece of toast with some peanut butter on it and a juice box and run our asses out the door. And I knew that there are kids in that school who were in the play who did not have that at home. And so I wanted to make sure when they came to the school for that play, they would have milk, juice, food, fruit, because I knew what it was like to be without. And so it wasn't guilt, it was a reciprocity and a paying it forward. That
Mhm.
is why I said yes to that specific thing. But it was intentional, it was because I wanted to, and it was because it brought me joy, and it was because it was also super fun to be with those kids and they're all silly and whatever. And so a lot of times I think people say yes, again, to your point, out of guilt. If I don't say yes to this, people are going to think I'm a mean bitch, or
Mhm.
I'm selfish, or I don't care about
You got the bubbles.
I mean, Jamie, Christmas, if I don't
Yeah.
bring whatever you call it to work, everyone at work's going to think I'm a terrible person, or if I don't sign up for the blur, blah, blah. And it just is like, death by a thousand cuts.
Yeah.
You gotta the no, and we're focusing a little bit on about boundaries, on saying no right off the bat, because there are other boundaries that we're going to get to.
Oh, for sure.
But no is the best gate that you can have when it comes to protecting your time.
Mhm.
You know.
And I mean, but I'm glad that you're starting here because as women, we have been trained by society, parents, expectations, school to be the people pleasers, right? To keep the peace. How many times in your family and like dear viewer, how many times in your own family, Have you heard someone say, "Oh, don't gotta keep the peace"? Fuck the peace. Like in that, in like in some instances, like sometimes, yeah, okay, maybe we don't need to die on every hill, right? There's that is a different boundary that we need to set, right? Like what's worth the energy, right? Um, but then there's other things where it's like, uh, we just don't, yeah, we don't do that here. Like that's not tolerated. Like you know, we're not gonna condone certain kinds of behavior, and we all train people how to treat us. Um, so there are a lot of things we need to relearn as adults sometimes, and as recovering people pleasers. No is an important first step to take, and it can be really hard to understand that no is a complete sentence. And it took me a while to get that. It's like for example, I'm just gonna like I have two quick stories. This one I just thought of as an example in that context is like text threads, right? You're in your group friend text and we're like, Friday night, blah blah blah. What are you all doing? Who wants to? And it's like some impromptu thing. I'm just making up a situation, although based in reality. Um, you could just say can't tonight, and that's it. That's no. You don't have to go into like, oh, I had such a week and blah blah blah, and because then you start getting into like rationalizing and feeling like you have to justify your no, and you don't. You could just say can't tonight. Catch you next time. It's that simple. You don't have to. If they ask like, oh, what are you up to, and just be like, I
I have
have things,
plans.
I have plans.
I
Right. I
have
have
plans.
plans. I have things I have to do at home. You don't even have to say that, honestly. You could just say, I have plans. Or you can also, I was going to use this as a separate example. Um, you could also not respond. Like every email, especially now, every text, every social media comment, unless it's going to help drive your engagement. This does not warrant a response. And keeping your peace in that way is setting a boundary. There's a there's a guy on social media, god, I can't think of his name right now. Um but his tagline, like his like sign off is protect your peace. And I love that guy. He's so great. I think he's Scandinavian of some sort. I don't He's in a Scandinavian country of some sort. I can't remember exactly where, but long-haired bearded fella, usually shirtless. This is easy on the eyes, if I may be honest. But yeah, he has great advice about ways to protect your peace, and fantastic life examples, and so it gives you actual real stories. I'll pause there for a second before I get into the other story I wanted to share. But yeah, Molly,
Two
I know you
things.
have a wealth of things to share.
No, no, no. I just, before we got too far into today's Empower Hour, I also wanted to do, again, for the dear viewer, we're wanting to help you work through something in real time as well. So if you have a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, something to write with, when we've been talking about boundaries, and we've been talking about self-care, and we've been talking about things that you want to um, protect your peace. I like that.
Yeah.
I would invite you to scribble that down real quick. What is something that popped into your head when you thought about boundaries? Is it something at work? Is it something with a friendship? Is it whatever that? And I loved how Christine said earlier, trust your first response. That is your instinct is there for a reason. So just write that down, and it doesn't have to be 8 pages long. It can be 2 or 3 words. Bitch in the corner office, or dude who always asks me for my fucking pencil because he forgets to bring his own damn pencil. Whatever it is. Sorry, but it's
Don't
always those
apologize.
it's those psychological pebbles in the shoe that just break us down, right? So
Yeah.
just write down whatever first came to your head about a boundary that you would like to enforce, and we're gonna, for the rest of the conversation, will help you work on those things. And the other thing that's really, really, really important is, before you can start saying no, I would like to again invite you to spend a weekend with yourself and determine what your yeses are. Yes, I will always say yes to going out to the theater because I love the theater. It makes
Yeah.
me happy. I love it. But I don't like going to opera because, oh my God, it makes my ears bleed and I hate it. So, I mean, really write down your yeses. These are the things that I love. They make me, they spark joy. They bring me happiness. If it's it could be something like, I'm going to take another small example about something that someone else may consider drudgery.
Mhm.
Like for instance, I love the friends of mine who are craftivists, and I love watching their cross stitch projects. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. I'll never do it because it's just nope.
Yeah.
But I mean, but for them, if you asked one of my friends to cross stitch a map of Morocco because it was for a project, oh my god, they'd already be out there freaking threading shit. And
Yeah.
so just really hone in on what your yeses are, because those are your fuel for your no's.
Mhm.
So one of
Yeah.
the things I definitely want to mention is we want to make sure that if it helps you, we're going to give you some real time examples to write things down, and then we'll kind of go over some different things
Yeah.
throughout the rest of the
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you, Molly. Yeah, and I love that. Oh God, so many things you made me think of. I mean, I had just like commented on one of your LinkedIn posts earlier today about how, um, oh shoot, now it's gone because I was looking at some other note that I had. But anyways, I concur. Oh, um, this was not that comment, but also like just thinking of no's in general. This is a bit of a tangent and perhaps a topic for another empower hour. But when you find your no's, the things that you don't want to do, the things that you like have that gut reaction to of like, oh, I don't want to do that. Also, first of all, you don't have to, going back to like, you don't have to respond at all. That can be rude sometimes. Okay. So like, let's not be borderline rude, but also sometimes it's okay to be rude. Sometimes it's hard to tell if you're a people pleaser. But the other thing, oh yeah, is that you don't have to respond right away, is what I was gonna say.
That's awesome, but this is something that I think is really important, and it's a I think Mark Twain said it, but it's like, don't ever use excuses, because your friends don't need them and your enemies don't believe them anyway. So in
Oh,
terms of justifying
yeah,
things,
that's fantastic.
I have to stay at home because I want to sort my spice drawer, and your friends are like, I don't give a shit if you can't be there, no big deal. But your enemies are like, oh yeah, spice drawer, sure lady, whatever.
Right,
So I
right.
mean, don't even worry about, you don't have to justify yourself.
Yeah, you
It's
don't.
it's enough just to say, no, I would really like, no, I would have fun. I'm
Yeah,
good with sitting this one out. I
yeah,
loved how you said that so casually, Christine. It's like, nope. How about next week? Sounds great. Yes, I'd love to be there.
yeah. Catch you next time,
Text Janet.
gals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, this even like goes for work situations too. Like if you can't make a client call, right? Like if there's a call, like a meeting, and a time gets proposed, and they give you, let's say they just say, Thursday at noon, and you can't for whatever reason. The reason literally doesn't matter. You don't have to go around shuffling your schedule just because the client asked for this specific time. Now, if they came to you and said, like, you can propose, like, to finish that sentence, you can propose several other times. You can give them a Calendly link, right? Or whatever tool, calendar scheduling tool. Um, and that makes it really easy to schedule things. You can propose other times, and all you have to say is, you don't even apologize. Just say, I'm booked that day, or I have a standing appointment at that time. However, these days and times, be specific. Don't just be like, this day and time, please. When you're scheduling anything, whether you're saying no or not, just please, when scheduling, just put a day at a time. It makes things so much faster. You skip like 3 different emails back and forth. Anyways, um yeah, so it works in professional settings too. And if you're getting, like, you're going to get hit with a new project, and you're like, the fuck, I have my plate is full, like, absolutely not, is what you want to say, but you shouldn't say that to your boss or client. um the professional way to say no in that instance is, this is what we're working on right now. If it's like client situation, I would say, this is what you and I, or me and the team and I, are working on. If it's you, just you as the employee, is like, these were the priorities that you had given me, these are the projects I'm working on. Which of these would you like me to deprioritize in order to take on this new project?
Yep.
Watch how fast that new project goes away or something else falls off.
I just think that that's, first of all, really weird, because as you were speaking this, that was basically what I was going to interrupt you to say, is that
Oh,
it's two things. And this is something that I
do
learned as
that.
being someone who's self-employed, is that
Yeah.
the day that someone suggested to me that I could set my own schedule, I was like, you're kidding me. Because I was so used to saying, yes, I'd love to meet at 4:30 in the morning in the suburbs when I've got to get on a train 4 hours earlier to get out there. Sure, I can make that work. No biggie.
Yeah.
What? No, but I mean,
No.
when it's weird how the universe will bend to your specifications if it's within, not reason, but I mean, if it's legitimate, and it is really why you work that well. And this is something,
Yeah.
again, when I worked for a client who, their home base or their headquarters was in Washington, D.C. So the entire team was all over the city, or all over the country, rather.
Yeah.
So we had some people in LA, we had some people in the South, we had people everywhere.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that they did when we worked there, when you were first onboarded, you wore a Fitbit for 3 months. And it wasn't because they
Really?
wanted to know how, what your urine levels were or how often you peed. They wanted to know when your body was focused and moving and vibrant
Oh.
and alive and whatever, because they would schedule your highest and most priority pieces and most intensive work when you were actually.
Yeah.
So again, when I say to people, I would love to meet with you between 10 and 3 on Tuesday, Thursday,
Yeah.
that's when my peak brain, if you want my peak brain, that's when I can make other adjustments.
Yeah.
But my Mondays and Fridays are absolutely not.
Yeah.
Mondays and Fridays are absolutely not, because I have another thing that I do on those days. And
Right.
so I think that in sometimes clients, and this is, we're talking clients, but people will appreciate that if you say to them, if you want the best version of me,
Exactly.
this is when I can be there. But if I'll be there at 7 o'clock at night, but I'm already powering down, and
Yeah.
I mean, my body will be there, and half of my brain.
Some of my brain. Right.
But
No, listen, sometimes like if you're dealing like globally, and your counterpart is in China, or Australia, even bigger time zone difference for, we're in Chicago, so we're central time, so that's just our point of reference. And for us, that is like, Australia is like the hugest leap, right? Sometimes we have to make compromises,
Yep.
and sometimes, but it's still in everyone's best interest to try to make that compromise, right? Like you time shift a little bit here, I'll time shift a little bit here, and we make it work, right?
Yep.
There's those kinds of instances, and hopefully we don't have to do that very often, right? But at the same time, you and I actually just did this. My best brain time is like as soon as I get up, really. It's like, well, let's say after my first cup of coffee. So within right after an hour after I get up, after I've walked the dog. And
you used the W word.
I know, I normally need to spell it. He's sleeping. Hopefully that did not wake him up. And you and I were meeting at 10 a.m. on Fridays, and we've been doing that for like 6 months, which is great. But I was like, oh man, we have such good conversations that like my brain is like tapped out after those conversations, like in the best way, right? And I realized I'm like, oh god, I'm not really super productive after those calls, and I asked if we could move them to Monday afternoons. So thank you, Molly, for making that compromise. I appreciate that, because now I can bring more of my good brains to those conversations, and it's still within your window of good brain. So that's how to work around. I mean, it's not really a no per se, but like it's how to make things work for the best interest of both parties.
But it's boundaries.
Yes.
It's not, you're not saying to your client, if it's not during these times, tough toenails.
Go pound sand.
It is, yeah, right. I love that phrase. But the one thing that I wanted to make sure we get to, because you had said it in a previous Empower Hour, it might have been last week or the week prior,
You made me sound
Boundaries.
so smart when you say stuff like when you start things out like I want to. You said something in the last
Well,
episode.
it's another way of
Thank you.
showing, it's another way of expressing and setting and establishing a boundary. And it was about the either workout or yoga or whatever, the gym where the people were sitting there talking and gossiping or whatever.
Oh
And
yeah,
you
that was
just
last week.
basically said, you know what? This isn't my bag. I'm not going to be here. This is not, and you
Yeah. Hmm.
established a boundary, your boundary establishing mechanism in that particular area because you had wanted to be in the class,
Hmm.
but you didn't necessarily have want to expose yourself to
I
that.
don't want to listen to people gossip about
Right.
someone else. I will not be party to that.
Correct. And so you said that is not who I am. That's not what I want. That is not alignment with who I am as a person. And so boop,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be over here until class starts or do whatever. And
yeah,
so if you're out there listening to this, that's going back to what are your yeses or what are your non-negotiables. It's almost kind of like dating, in a way, in terms of I dated someone who I'm not a smoker. I don't want to date a smoker. I don't think smokers are bad. I don't want to, push them off a cliff. It's or anything like that. It's just that I don't want to date one.
right.
And one of my previous relationships uh, was at some point in his life a smoker, and then he quit.
Uh-huh.
And then we dated for a while. And then after a while, he would come back from going someplace and he would smell like smoke, or he'd have like,
Uh,
and
yeah.
it's just like, what?
Yeah.
And he said something about, I just really 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 like smoking. And I said, well, that's fine, and that's fine, but it's not for me. I love that. I think I already said it as well with good for her, not for me, with the Tina, not, dang it, Amy Poehler,
Yeah.
her saying of good for them, not for me. And it's
Yeah.
so, make sure that your boundaries are also things that you set for yourself that are non-negotiables. And one of the things that Abraham Hicks
Hmm.
had said that stuck with me, it was back during my first divorce. Uh, I knew I did not marry the right person, and I knew I was not marrying the right person, and I married him anyway. Uh, and afterwards, I was going through and listening to one of Abraham Hicks' CDs. It was back when YouTube didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
And
Well, they started out on tapes.
yeah,
Well,
and it was one of the things that they said was sometimes you have to live in a house with no closets to know that you want closets. And
oh,
so
yes.
so definitely in determining and figuring out what your boundaries are, you're going to learn some of those boundaries by being in situations that you don't like.
Yeah.
Those are defining aspects where you're like, ooh,
Yeah.
don't like this. Nope,
Right.
not for me.
And then they get into, I've been on an Abraham Hicks binge the past few weeks specifically. And she calls it contrast, right? Like we call them challenges. But they're there to show us a lot of different things. We don't have to get down that tangent, but yeah, you're exactly right. It's that the things that you rub up against, that you like, that you bristle against, like they're there to show you something. Like even your emotions. God, this is such a tangent, but relevant. Um, Anger. It's there because there's something underneath the anger that isn't aligned with you. There's something about the frustration that you might be feeling. There's something about the sadness that you might be feeling. There's something about the boredom that you might be feeling. And none of those are bad emotions, right? I'm not trying to say there's something about the excitement that you're feeling, right? The joy, the jubilation. Like that's true of every emotion. It is there to highlight something for you and to make you aware, and to signal to you that you maybe want to do some digger deeping. So enough on that topic. I won't go further
No,
down.
no, no. I think that's a good segue. I think that's a good segue into how can we tell when our boundaries are being pushed? How can
Yeah,
we
thank
tell
you.
when we've come up against a boundary?
Yeah.
Because I think that especially if you've been a people pleaser for so long,
Mhm.
this is a tangent, by the way. So
Love it.
so I was when my daughters were little kids, we were in rentals for a long time. And they were always, mom, can we get dogs? Can we get cats? Can we get pets? And I'm like, not until we own what we're living in, because renting no. So we
Yeah.
finally bought a condo. We got these cats, really cute little cats. They were sisters.
Oh,
And my kids at the time were, I think my oldest was 9 years old, which would have put my youngest at 4. So prime germ bag age. I'm not sure for anyone out there who has children, but when they're in school, they're freaking little germ bags.
yeah.
And so I had what I thought was a cold for like a full year. I was eating Sudafed. I was popping,
Oh no.
sinus stuff, and just like sneezing and running my nose. And I thought, well, it's because I've got 3 little germ bags that are bringing back God
Yeah.
knows what. And so
Yeah.
finally, I went to the doctor, and the doctor's like, "Hey, you're allergic to cats. Newsflash." So,
Oops.
so my point with this weirdo tangent is that you may be experiencing symptoms of boundary smushing that you're writing off as something else because you've never had to define that a boundary is getting crossed.
Yeah.
So again, if you have that low level tension, if you've always got a headache, especially if you're around, oh, my headache's fine when I'm in blah, 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 but when I go here, it's like instant migraine. Those are
That's
indicators.
a
That's an
sign.
indicator.
Yeah.
So those are some things I think we wrote down, like resentment. I think you said was another good one. It's like, yes,
Yeah.
I'll fucking do it. Fine. Oh, my favorite's a passive aggressive. You probably didn't notice that I did that, but I did that. That whole, oh, it's just like,
I don't miss that about
but
corporate life.
it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I put the toilet paper on. Thank you. You can thank me later. That's a
Like,
big
would you
old,
like a gold star? Like,
oh
okay.
yeah. It's like if you find
Oh,
yourself like that,
yeah.
that's a neon sign that you're
Yeah.
pissed about something.
Yeah.
They can put their own fucking, let them try to wipe their butt with God knows what. And maybe they'll put the toilet paper on themselves, but you don't have to get there and be passive aggressive smurf about it.
Right, exactly.
Set your boundary. You know what? It's right there. It's literally in the basket next to the toilet.
Exactly. Well, that goes back to something we were saying earlier, very early in the episode, is that we teach people how to treat us, right? And so if you are constantly doing for the person that is basically playing victim, or like the learned helplessness, right? If you're
Enabling it.
thank you, that's the word. I was like, I'm blanking on the word. Yeah, if you're being an enabler to that, like, you're not setting a boundary. And if you're frustrated by, whoever, I was going to try to come up with a funny name, but like Nervous Nelly, but like if you've got ants in her pants, Andy over there, like talking about, I don't know, the coffee needs to be refilled. Like, sir, you are a fully grown human with fully capable arms and legs. So please.
Which is not to say, I mean, I have definitely been the person when the person I'm dating is having a crap hole a day. They've had a crap
Yes.
hole a day. They come home, everything is,
Yes.
crappy. They stepped in dog dew on the way into the door. They're,
Not the
anything,
dog dew.
like, one thing after another. And they come in and it's just like, it's perfectly fine for you to say, because you want to, and it's not something that you do every day or whatever, and it's not like it has a lot to do again with that alignment. There's nothing wrong with babying someone or saying, you look like you've had a crap all the day. What would you like for dinner? I'll make your favorite, just because.
Yeah.
We all want to be
that's
comforted. We
completely
all want to be
different.
taken care of. We all want to be recognized.
Yeah.
And because heaven knows I've had a crap day, and it's always nice when someone says, let's go out to eat. Oh my God, that would be so fun. Let's do it. So we're not trying to always say no and.
No, and that's it. Yes. The compassion is a huge factor in this. And especially if your loved one, friend or partner, whatever, it doesn't matter, the coworker also as well. If you're noticing that they're having a really shit day, like, help them. But if I was referring to people who are like the learned helplessness of like, I can't do it. Yes, you can. That's a fantastic, fantastic example. So so some of the other things that, like, if you're just feeling drained, irritable, I love, Molly, you brought that up. And if you're feeling like This one's sneaky because, again, I feel like this one can be a hard one to notice just out of, if you're already a people pleaser, especially when you feel responsible for someone else's emotions or outcomes. Also, if you're on the autistic spectrum in any way or capacity, and maybe potentially also ADHD. I'm not 100% sure about that, but definitely on the autistic spectrum. You might you're masking because you're controlling other people's response to you. And when you stop masking and people start having a different reaction to you, it's because you stopped like coddling their emotions and started taking care of your own. So just FYI, that could be something. This is something that I just recently learned is a thing. So it was eager to share that. Does that make sense? Did I explain that okay, Molly?
Yes. And I'm not diagnosed or anything like that. I have been on a number of I didn't know I was on a dates because
Oh,
sometimes my social cues are not really
uh-huh.
very well tuned. I've been on
I don't know if that's not necessarily a spectrum thing. I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
that's sometimes just a
But
weird communication.
well, it just
Thing.
sometimes I feel as if oh beans, it was literally just streaked across my head.
Oh
Oh, it's
no.
about feeling other people's emotions.
Oh
Oh,
no.
here we go.
Yeah, got it.
Here's something out there for you empaths, because I know that there's some people who are, I know we have a client who's an empath, who's like a freaking sponge with feet, and this individual just really is very sensitive to their environments, and it's very helpful for them in a specific situation. But like all things that are skills, or what do you want to call it, attributes or assets, can also go into not necessarily an unhealthy level, but they can also be liabilities if you're not careful. And
Yeah.
so empaths, especially when it comes to setting boundaries, it can be very difficult to know where you begin and other people start, and where is that boundary.
Ooh, yes.
So I just want to make sure that people are aware of that. And so if you ever are in doubt,
Mhm.
that's usually a teeny tiny gentle indicator that you're near a periphery of your boundary. And again, it's just an invitation for you to explore that
Mhm.
feeling. And that's where I love journaling, um,
Yes.
or coaches, where you can just have that opportunity to voice your concerns in a space without judgment, and where people can say, well, that was that, or this is, they offer assessments
Yeah.
or some feedback. But I mean, empaths, it can be very difficult to set boundaries if you're an empath, because it's difficult to determine where that boundary is. So
But even more necessary because that is such an energy zapping way to be all the time. Yeah.
I have a
Molly, go.
total
I pick you.
yeah, yeah, call on Molly, the one over there with their hand up.
Oh, you,
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah, you with the shirt. uh I literally, okay, this is a deep cut for you Ray Bradbury fans out there in Dear Viewer.
Ooh,
Does anyone, did you read the Martian Chronicles?
I did not.
Okay, so the Martian
Fahrenheit
Chronicles.
451 is, I think, the only one from him I
Oh, well,
read.
the Martian Chronicles, I always think about the Martian Chronicles when it comes to giving myself away or making sure everyone else is happy, because at the very end, Tom is the Martian, and he has the capacity to shapeshift, and he becomes whatever the person needs. So somebody has lost their son, he morphs into that son, and someone else needed this, and so
Oh,
at the very end, he's literally running down the street, and everyone in town is trying to project onto him what they need from him, and he basically just
oh, yeah.
vaporizes, because you
Combusts.
cannot be everything to everyone.
No,
So
cannot
again,
pour from an empty cup.
yes. So yeah. So there's my science fiction. That was really, I don't know where that just popped out of my head. I was like, yeah,
That's okay. This is why we
it's
love your brain.
you lose the center. You lose your center
Yes.
when you try to be all things to all people. And
Yeah. There
and
was. Oh,
yeah. No, I'm just rambling at this point. So please
No,
feel
no,
free.
another story that's similar about you said something about, I don't know if you said it in this way, but you talked about like knowing where your boundary starts and ends, right? And where someone else's begins, right? Not having this entanglement, right? Which can be messy and frankly draining. Um, there's another wonderful, more witchy creator that I do like. She's based out of Mexico City, and she had just moved into a new apartment, and she had not. She moved in sight unseen. Like her really good friend was able to tour it and was like, "Oh my god, you're gonna love this place." And so she was like, "Great, trust you, fine." Nothing wrong with the with the unit itself. Like it's like gorgeous. She's happy with it. But when she walked in, um, she well first the landlord or real estate agent, I'm not sure, exactly sure, but there's some in between, some in between person, um had said that there was the couple that lived there before had some, you know, domestic issues, right? And they didn't get into detail, but there was some sort of fighting, or there was some sort of not great energy going on in there. And so she, like I said, she's, you know, on the more witchy side. So she was like, okay, I've got my sage, I've got my crystals, I've got this, I've got that. And she was like listing all the things. She's like, okay, I've got a plan. I'm gonna, you know, just smudge the shit out of this place or whatever. And God, I wish I could remember her name. And she's saying to herself, like, I'm just gonna pretend I'm her for just a hot second. She's like, Christine, why are you coming in here so porous? And she started having this like conversation with herself. She's like, you have your own energy. Like, set your boundaries, basically. And so she was like, no, I will not let this energy infiltrate me. And like, we're redirecting this energy. And like, and she said that it's been fantastic. And like, so there's a lot of things going on there. That's a very layered, like going a layer deeper than the woo aspect of it. It's like when you decide something, you and I have talked about this before, Molly, that like when you decide something, your biology literally changes. There are neurons that fire together and wire together differently when you make a decision, and that changes literally your entire energy field between your heart and brain. So yeah, you can really make a huge impact, not only again for yourself, but for the community around you and the environment around you, to bring it all full circle. When you make these decisions about your boundaries and you're like, wait, why am I like, first again, it always goes back to our aware, or like our aligned method of like the A in aligned is for awareness. And the first is like noticing and paying attention to how are you being in the world, where are you feeling those emotions, the frustration, the blah blah blah. And I think in her case, maybe it was fear, probably, or like, ooh, what is that energy, and then making a decision about it. How are you going to react? And so I'll shush now.
No, I think that here's the thing for those of you who might not be as woo as Christine and I are, is that I know that everyone who is listening to this or watching this, I absolutely 100% know. I don't like to make a lot of assumptions, but I know this is true, that you have gone into a room at work, or you've stepped into
Yep.
a room in your house or whatever, and someone has just had an argument, and you can tell that someone has just had an argument,
Oh
even
yeah.
if they're not talking,
Ooh,
because
like
there's a
cut the tension
shit,
with a knife is a
frick is
phrase
going
for a reason.
correct. So that is energy, dear viewer. And so you, upon walking into this room, can have, you know, in terms of the boundaries, you can go, you know what, I can tell something's happened here.
Yeah.
It's none of my business, unless someone has a bloody nose and something is, you know, wrong is happening. Then you say, what's happened and how can I help, or how can we solve this,
Yeah.
or do I need to call a cop or whatever, or call it whatever.
Yeah.
There's a tangent, but I mean, you can go into the break room and say, you know what, I came in here for coffee, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee, and I'm going to go back to my desk because this has nothing to do with Molly. This has nothing to do with me. And
My dad used to call that nunya. None your
yep,
business.
none of your business. And some of the ways that the royal you can reinforce those boundaries is again going back to the body mind spirit connection. And there are things called power poses that change your physiology.
Yeah.
Smiling makes different things fire up here. Standing in the what's called the power pose, hands on your hips,
Yeah. Wonder Woman.
and saying, I'm going in and this is my goal and this is why I'm going into this room. I'm going to go get some damn coffee or whatever. But I mean,
Great.
and you can
We're
give
secure in
yourself
the
pep
bag
talks.
in this
You can,
presentation.
yeah, you can give yourself pep talks all the time in
Oh
terms
yeah.
of, especially when you're just first starting to set your boundaries. And I would also suggest when you're ready to, when you've defined like 4 things that you know are things that you will no longer tolerate, and that's it. You're not. It's just you're not going to tolerate it,
Yeah.
and it's not a. This is the thing that I think is important about boundaries is that you have every right to set your own boundaries. You have absolutely zero right to set someone else's boundaries.
Yep.
And by that, I mean, if you go into the break room and it's full of cake and it's full of whatever, and one of your boundaries is, I don't eat cake. Well,
Yeah.
good thing I brought my carrots, or good thing I brought whatever you brought. But you don't
Yeah.
have to go in there and say, you guys eating cake are gross. That's terrible. None of
Can't
your
do those
freaking
boundaries.
business, lady.
Right.
Freaking tend your
Don't put
own
it in your
garden.
don't put it in your in your face then.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're absolutely right to enforce your own boundaries and to state them, but
Yeah.
you don't get to make other people's boundaries. And going
Yeah.
back to the,
People
let's
get
say you
weird
pick
about
4,
drinking. Yeah.
well, it's again, yeah. Ooh, I have a point about that. So it's like,
Oh,
so if you have 4, if you decided on 4, pick one of them and work on them one at a time. Don't
yeah.
try to change 4 boundaries at once, or your head's gonna explode.
You're gonna be like
But
the sci-fi reference guy, Tom, at the end of
yeah,
that book.
yeah. But I wanted to mention very briefly, because I think that no alcohol is absolutely a boundary that people can set for themselves.
And get stopped all over. I mean, I know I've been guilty of that too. Like, oh, you don't want to. You're not gonna join us. Like, what? Why are you gonna be lame? Like, I don't like that I've been that person, but I know better, so I do better.
But on the reverse part of that, if you know people in your circle who do not drink, and you're like the hostess, I love entertaining. I really love having parties and stuff like that. If you are going to be a host of an event, absolutely take into consideration things that other people have set for their boundaries. Have some
Yeah.
non-alcoholic things. Have some things that
Right.
are, because that's part of including people and making other people feel comfortable in your presence and in your home,
Yeah. Have
which
some
is kind of a
gluten-free
weird reverse
options.
boundary thing. But anyway,
But yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's a reverse boundary. I like that. Like a purposely set reverse boundary. That's nice. Um. Oh, there was something else that you were saying that. Oh my goodness, it's gone.
number of
Oh, I
changes
know.
at a time. Okay.
Oh, no, but I do agree with you that, like, yeah, I mean, that's true of like setting a habit of, you know, making any sort of behavioral change. Like let's just like this is, again, like New Year's resolutions. I'm gonna lose 30 pounds and I gotta eat healthy and but well, slowly roll. Pick one. Let's be good at one
I'm going to
thing.
learn French. I'm going to climb Mount Everest. I'm going to save $1 million. I'm going to.
All of it.
All right, there, Gladys.
I
Just
love
pick
it.
one.
I love
Just
it.
one at a time there.
Those are all possible things.
Slow your roll.
Maybe not all at once. Because behavior change takes time and energy, a substantial amount of energy and intent. So anyways, um but to that point actually is that a lot of times you will have to reassert your boundaries. So like the first time you say uh no, I'm good, I'm not drinking tonight, you might have to say that to somebody again. One, they might have just forgot, to be totally honest. Like if they're used to like hanging out with you and like, time went on, then they might have just like out of habit, right? They're just being like, or they're just trying to be polite, in a way of just like making sure everyone is, fed and um etc. Um not thirsty. And so there's that, right? Or they could not believe you. They're just like, or if it happens often enough, they may not respect your boundary. And that is where we get into the area of red flags. This happens in relationships so many times, not necessarily moving off of the drinking thing, but like a boundary of any kind, right? So there's been a friend that I've had where I would just get these drunk texts that were just vitriol. And I don't even, yeah, I don't know, but I sure as shit wasn't going to respond to them because they sounded drunk, and I know not to engage at that point because what's the point? It's a downward, it's a race to the bottom at that point. Um, Drunk or not, that's a boundary that I needed to set. Now, I want to be clear. I did not say, you dumb motherfucker, I'm not responding to you. Right? Like, as much as I might have thought that. No, I did not say that to her. You don't have to state your boundary,
Nope.
is what I'm actually saying.
Yep.
It's a boundary that you set for yourself and that you can keep to yourself, but you have to follow through on it. So you can't say it to yourself and then do the opposite. So in time, said person caught on and tried a different approach. You teach people how to treat you.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so but I really wanted to underscore that the boundaries you set don't necessarily have to be spoken or written or anything like that. It can be just something you decide and you enforce.
Yes. Yes. And if you find it helpful to state it,
Yeah.
then by all means do so.
Yeah.
But just it's I kind of wanted, let's see what else we're doing here. We did that.
Well, also people aren't mind readers, and so sometimes
Right.
it's very, especially in relationships.
Right.
And I don't mean to be heteronormative, but like I'm cis, right? So that's my context, right? So like in my relationships with men, they're not mind readers. Like none of us are really, right? Like you hope that people can intuit like when you're having a really rough day and that you need a little bit more tenderness more than others, but yeah, someone might not realize that crunching chips in the next room with your mouth open is annoying AF, and you're gonna punch a hole in the wall if they don't stop, right? Like you should probably verbalize like very nicely, hey, can you chew those with your mouth closed? Thank you.
Well, one of the ways that I set a boundary and I taught my children how to respect them
Yeah.
is when they were very little. Again,
Uh-huh.
for those of you who may be out there who don't know my backstory, I was a single mother for quite some time, and I would come home from I'd go pick them up at the daycare, and we'd cross the threshold to our home. And the minute I got in, it was just like Velcro on my legs, or da 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 da, and mom,
Mom,
and
mom.
and you need to sign this for
3
school,
girls.
and da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I just I had not downloaded work brain, and I just was just
Yeah.
and so what I
You haven't
did,
had that transition yet.
yes, I was just, and I thought, I can't focus on any of you guys because I'm not, so
Yeah.
what I did was we went out and every girl picked out her own little egg timer. Like some of them are shaped like apples, and some of them are little eggs, and some of them look like sweet peppers or whatever. So every girl picked out her own timer.
Yeah.
Sat them by the front door. We walk in, they would turn their timer to 15 minutes. And I said, I need 15 minutes to turn from work mom to house mom in order to be present for you guys. So everyone, when those timers go off, we're bring me whatever you want me to sign, do whatever, we're gonna get ready for dinner or whatever. But I that 15-minute window is something that
Yeah.
I know I need in order to make sure that I am home mom. I'm present for you. And those are the things that, again, that's self-care. It's self-care.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so anyway, that was just
Boundaries are
an
self-care.
actual, well, and it was also that was kind of a physical, tangible example that I could cite of way to
what a great parenting
make
hack.
it measurable. They had their own buy-in because they had picked
Yeah.
out so anyway.
Yeah, I think that's so brilliant. You've got a lot of really brilliant parenting hacks, like if things were I hope you don't mind me sharing this story. You've shared this before, but like they're having a meltdown in the car or something like
Oh,
that, and you just start singing everything, and like it starts making it like you're changing the mood, you're changing the energy. You can do that around boundaries too. It's like
yeah.
boundaries don't have to be gloom and doom. You can,
Singing also helps your vagal nerve. So if you're
yeah,
not, if you're dysregulated, singing helps you change your physiology. So
yeah,
FYI,
absolutely.
we
Yeah,
did
I'm just
not do
looking
Mad
for.
Cat again this week.
No, this was such a robust topic.
Poor hat. The poor
Poor
hat.
really neglected. Well, it was great. It was a great segment when we needed more topics. But dear viewers, you have given us so many ample things to talk about that we have just been able to fill the time with the amazing topics that you've given us. Let's see. Oh,
Well,
the other thing is that I wanted. I'm just looking at notes real quick. Is that you can adjust boundaries as your life or business evolves. Like just because a boundary worked for you in your 20s doesn't mean it's going to work for you in your 60s, right? Like I don't know why I was thinking about going out dancing like in your 20s and like everyone puts their purse in the middle and we all dance around the purses. I don't know. That's not a boundary. I don't know where that came from. Um,
good plan though.
it is. It worked out well. We're just like we don't want to hold these things. We're not going to leave them on a table. We're gonna just dance around them. Anyways, we created a boundary around our purses. Maybe that's where my brain went. Anyways, the point is that your boundaries, it's okay for them to change. Just like, hey, spoiler alert, it's okay to change your opinion when you learn new and more information as time goes. Um, Boundaries are a living, breathing thing.
So one of the things I wanted to revisit, because we talked earlier in the hour about offering some examples and some takeaways, and so if you wrote something down in the beginning of our hour, take a quick look at that and see if there are some things that Christine and I brought up that you can implement, whether that's creating a different habit or saying something at work with, setting a boundary, or I think we gave a couple of scripts per se in terms of, you know, no, that's I have plans, or that won't work for me, or
Yeah.
things like that. But those are some different things, and I know we've got some stuff coming up that are going to be additional boundaries. I also wanted to refer to our vault for it's not the collab vault, but we have it
The
as
research
part of the
vault.
future. It's a research vault that's accessible for a monthly fee, pretty reasonable, with loads of stuff in it. But one of the things that we have is how to say no,
Mhm.
the resource vault, and it literally has like step-by-step instructions on how to define, how to, enunciate it, how to present that. And so there's a whole bunch of resources in there that are available to you that go beyond boundaries, that have to do with time management or your business, or mental health. There's all sorts of things in there, but
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that before I spaced it, because
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, while we're
it,
talking about that, I mean, we're
it
getting
was a
close to time.
danger.
Well, we're getting close to time. Do you want to talk about Adrian next week?
Yes. So Adrian is one of the sponsors of FutureU, and he is the founder of Trash Friends. And Trash Friends is a cleaning service that was actually the Chicago Reader named it the most popular, or the best cleaning service in Chicago. And
Woohoo.
not only does Adrian have a great staff that has to do with, helping people with cleaning, but he specializes in hoarding disorder, ADHD, ADHD, and gender and trans communities. It's a queer-owned company, and in addition to actually going in and helping people with cleaning and organizing their home, he has stuff that they have people on staff who will do small repairs, like if you've got a wiggly drawer that drives you bananas, but you never actually fix it, that's actually a drain on your self care, by the way.
It's a good
Is
point.
but he's going to be our guest next Wednesday at 11 o'clock, and I believe,
Central. Yep.
yeah, Central Time. And I think that we'll be putting some stuff out there for the save the date. Christine is the tech brain, and we have like a little save the date function that we'll have available to you. But um, it's just a great way to learn from an expert, and we've had such great response from people. And then this is kind of, I believe, the live version of his presentation next week will be free.
Yep.
We do put it on the replay, and that one is available to everyone who's in our collab. So if you're in our collab, you'll have access to Adrian after. And then also we've had 3 other experts thus far this year that you should still be able to access their stuff as well. So yeah, the link is right there. If I can do this, there we go. But the collab is really great. And you're welcome to join. We'd love to have you, because we're building some really fun community. Some really neat people are there. So
Yeah,
we'd love
yeah.
to have you there.
Collab is our group coaching program. We also have private coaching. We also have, like Molly said, the resource vault, which is on demand, go at your own pace, take what resonates, leave the rest. And then we also have workshops for teams as well. So if that's,
Yeah,
you
corporate.
want to bring this dynamic duo into your company and shake things up and do some amazing workshops, we are available for that. So I think is that everything? I think we touched on everything. I'm really excited about Adrian next week.
Me too. Me too.
As someone with a doom corner, who she would like to rid herself of.
Well, the thing about the ADHD, and that goes to a lot of times people don't know what their boundaries are, because they're just, and I've never been formally diagnosed, but sometimes for me the boundaries are very helpful because they keep me structured.
Mm-hmm.
And without that structure, you can tend to just not be as effective, or so there's a reason that we have our experts we've chosen for an absolute reason. And we've got some other ones coming up that are going to also be experts on, again, that complement self-care in a holistic manner. But
self-care for your life and career.
Yeah, it really is. And was it last week or the week prior that we had a session in our collab where we had a perfect example of that, in terms of a person who was wanting to do a particular product launch, and some of the things that individual was overcoming was nested with worthiness issues, the way that they presented their merchandise, the way that they put themselves out there in the world as a professional. And it just is, it's all connected, it's all related. And so that's what's I think so exciting about what FutureU does, is we really try to integrate the individual. You're not a person who exists in work and then you're a separate person out of work, or at the gym, or at school, or it's integrating.
Yeah. We're multifaceted beings, and all those facets interact with each other, and it's not healthy to try to completely separate them. I know sometimes we have to, sometimes as a coping mechanism, sometimes we have to context switch and code switch and all of that. But it takes a toll. It takes a very massive toll. There was an interesting, maybe I can share this on LinkedIn or Instagram or something, but there was an interesting chart that was talking about burnout specifically, and the biometrics and how the signs of burnout start to show up as like little blips. So like you were talking about, like the Fitbit analogy, if you were wearing some sort of like, biometric tracker of any sort, people were wearing these, and it could track your stress levels, and it would show up as these whoop, 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 and then it would get a little higher, get a little higher, and then physical aspects would start showing up. And get a little higher, get a little higher, and then you start getting sick. And then get a little higher, get a little higher, and then you start getting chronic illness. So it does, if not regulated, it the body will, if you don't take a break, your body will take one for you,
Yep.
basically.
That's actually a future Empower You, a Power Hour, because
Yeah.
I'm reading so much stuff about the quantum science and quantum field and quantum mechanics and stuff that I can't keep talking because we've had our hour, but
You gotta say
I
it.
definitely want to put that Empower. I think that I would love to have that be part of a series for future Empower Hours, because one of the people I started out a long time ago, it's probably been 7 years, is Mike Dooley, and Thoughts Become Things was one of the things that first really started getting me thinking about that. But it's actually true. There's a physiology that happens, and in terms of energy and consciousness and physicality and manifesting as something. And I love how you mentioned that the body will eventually
Yep.
store it, and it shows up as a migraine, or it shows up as fill in the blank, because
Way to bring it full circle to what we said at the very beginning. You're getting those migraines. You could be in need of setting a boundary. Yeah. Those are all signs. Those are all signals. Yes.
all connected.
It is. Oh my goodness. And I think this is a fantastic topic. I took that down as a note. So stay tuned for next week when we're gonna talk about more. Maybe it's that topic. We also there were some other, just at some point, some of the topics we have slated coming up, like feeling in your body, like feeling those, like how to notice those responses, like how, like where do you feel a no, where do you feel a yes, right? The uh-huhs and the nuh-uhs. Like Molly, I think when you like walk into a room, right? Oh, that was something that I was going to say just very briefly, is that like the analogy of like when you walk into a house and just have this feeling like this is the house, right? Like we're putting a
Down payment.
not a bid or something on
Oh,
this, like before the down payment. I forget. Oh my god, I can't think of it right
offer.
now. Offer. Thank you. That's it. Like we're putting an offer on this house, right? Like we're gonna put it our hat in the ring. Like where do you feel that, right? And then people feel it in different places. Something else is managing your media intake, which maybe we should do sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I don't know if you and I talked about this one, but I was thinking of a glossary of terms. Like I feel like we throw out a lot of different terms like biology and psychology and neuroscience terms that could be
Yeah, I
connected.
think that might be helpful. And I'm open to definitely, if that's something that would serve you, dear viewer, let us know. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's the thing, one of the reasons that we had the Magic Hat to begin with was we wanted to create an opportunity for you out there to say, I would love to learn more about XYZ, because the Magic Hat topics are questions we get from clients, or, recurring issues that, again, we see with different self-care questions, is all I'm getting. Sorry. But I mean, so again, it is an open invitation. If there's something that's come up while you're listening or watching this, drop a comment or send us an email at hello@meetfutureu.com, and just put Empower Hour in the subject line so we know how to route it, so that we can give it its attention that it deserves.
To our massive team.
Yeah, we'll send it to the team, who right now you're looking at our team, but eventually we will have a team.
Well, VP of Snuggles over here is sleeping
That's
on
true.
the
I
job.
forgot about that. He's
It's going in his performance review. Sleeps on the job. Yes! I got her to snort. Oh,
I haven't done for a while, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, right on.
Good.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here with us. I am out of Portillo's soda. Sad. So if you're ever in Chicago, go to Portillo's.
Oh
We're
yeah,
not sponsored
not sponsoring yet.
yet. All right. Thank you all. On that
See you
note,
next week.
bye. Set those boundaries.